Welcome, citizens of planet Earth. It is time for part 4 of Into the Breach Unfair Difficulty with the Hazardous Mechs. We're on our final corporate island, and it's going to be a doozy. I think we will have on screen my mechs here. We've got the Leap Mech with Silica and a heavily upgraded Titanite blade, Bethany Jones with Self-Destruct Conservative, and a reasonably upgraded Unstable Mech. And lastly, Rosie Rivets in the Nano Mech with plus 2 HP heals on the Viscera Nanobots. So we are hoping for mass destruction against the really unpleasant OpFor we have, including Tumblebugs and Diggers. Both Vec capable of creating obstacles and generally problems. My hope was that the Titanite blade would be a good counter to the Diggers, allowing me to attack on the diagonal for when they kind of ensconce themselves with their multiple boulders attack. So we have 3 choices for missions at the beginning. Right off the bat, we've got Erosion Flats with the Hornet spawning holes, which I generally try to avoid if I can at all, do so. We have a Defend the Train, which I'm really not feeling will be successful. Which leaves me with the third option of the Scrapyard. We have shielded buildings, a Sandstorm, which is player-sided, both in that it cancels Vec attacks, and the mission is only 3 turns long. The only downside is we don't get any reputation for doing this mission, but, sometimes safer is better than being more bold. So we've got a pair of Tumblebugs, a Digger, and an Alpha Hornet as our OpFor at the beginning of this mission, as well as the Regen Scion. I was hoping that I would be doing enough damage that the Regen Scion would be mostly an afterthought, and that largely proves true. So, on deployment, I set up the Leap Mech and the Unstable Mech to bait the Digger, and I was successful in doing so. I gave it 2 very tempting targets for its 4-directional attack. The idea being that then I could just summarily destroy it and not have to worry about it for the remainder of the mission. That just means I have to deal with that Alpha Hornet, and then the Tumblebug will destroy a shielded building, or rather a grid building's shield. If I can stop that, if at all possible, that would be nice, but it's not a, high priority thing to do. So the Unstable Mech was, easily able to destroy the Digger for us. And it is up to the Nano Mech to handle the Hornet. So now it's just kind of a free action. Now, this was a little bit of a misplay here. I could have repositioned the Leap Mech to have done some damage to that Tumblebug and also block the spawn, but instead I just decided to be very passive, and I figured it wasn't worth using a temporal reset just yet. And we are having the Sandstorm help us out quite a bit, although that Tumblebug is now a real problem. There's nothing we can do about that explosive boulder. Now, there were multiple ways to potentially solve this, and this being, my second observation of this footage, I often will frustrate myself on this playthrough, mostly because I often forget about the diagonal attack on the Titanite blade and the maneuverability that affords me. But, it's a different story when you're in the driver's seat trying to record the footage and, get a successful run under your belt. I have the benefit of armchair general here. So, there will be many turns throughout this particular playthrough of this island that could have been done better. I'll try to point them out when I can. And also, this was a pretty long recording. I think it was in excess of 43 minutes. There were some real brain ticklers, some real puzzlers on this island, and it took me a while. I've done my best to condense it in editing to save you some time. and save my commentary brain. I believe I've gotten it down to some 36 minutes now. So this is the final turn here, and I've got the Firefly leader to deal with now, and it is in a weird little position that's going to be difficult to deal with, and I have multiple problems here. That problem being, first of all, the leap mech, its options are limited. It's now going to be destroyed, and he can no longer move because he landed in sand. I discovered, over the course of this particular playthrough, that RST, perhaps more so than any other island, is the island that maybe the Hazardous Mechs have the hardest time dealing with, just because their weapons are very indiscriminate and cause a lot of, wide area attack damage, primarily the leap attacks, the leap mech's hydraulic legs. They kick up a lot of smoke, the sand tiles, and this can stymie your ability to, you take optimal actions. So I had to use a temporal reset to save Silica's life, and I have to push that Alpha Hornet so that it won't damage the grid, and, I shuffle around trying to find a more elegant solve, but in the end, all I wind up doing is body blocking the Firefly's attack. And I'm fortunate that I have, HP upgrades to survive its extremely high damage attack. So that will be a mission complete. And honestly, that was one of the faster missions on this particular island. We are about to see the real puzzles await us. So I have do not kill the volatile Vec and defend the terraformer. And I'm very much inclined, as you all know, to pick defend the terraformer. However, perhaps I'm a bit too hasty to pick it this time. Because look at our opposing force here. They've got a pair of tumblebugs on the field, and a tumblebug leader, no less. And the problem is, if those things start laying down the unstable boulders, the terraformer is going to have no choice but to start destroying them. And this will cause us some issues here. I'm not sure if there was a better way I could have deployed. My ability to influence where the tumblebugs were going to place their payload was quite limited. But as you can see, things quickly get choked up with obstacles. And this is really bad. It limits my positioning and maneuverability at the start of the turn. And we've got lots of problems. We have functionally 3 threats to the grid and 2 threats to the terraformer. I have to clear the way somehow for my mechs to move in and try to do something about all this trouble before us. So my first thought was to simply use the terraformer to just kind of bite the bullet, kill the Firefly and the Alpha Tumblebug. We'll be taking a hit to the grid, but that will open up sort of an avenue for my other mechs to, deploy. So we commit to that. But here's the problem. When that boulder explodes, it kicks up sand. This is bad. And there's not really much I could have done about it. But this means that the unstable mech really lacks a good target. It cannot attack the digger over there. And I have to do something to save the terraformer, or else, mega mission failed. But in using the Titanite blade, which was the only thing capable of one-shotting the bouncer, I kick up even more dust. So there's nothing I can do about the digger, and I have to just kind of accept that the tumblebug leader will also be causing me problems. My one consolation is I get to just destroy it with self-destruct. But that was a really rough first turn. We're down 3 grid health. But at least our mission objectives are still on track. And one small consolation is we will get 2 grid health back at the end of this mission. But I'm always a little bit frustrated when a mission that is supposed to be easy, such as defend the terraformer, proves to be trouble. But the next turn goes relatively smoothly just because there's so few enemies left on the board. And then it's just a matter of doing some spawn blocking to try and control the future chaos. Get a pair of bouncers. And then I make an interesting choice here. With only 2 turns remaining, I didn't want to have, any more enemies to worry about than I absolutely had to, so I decide to use up my second use of self-destruct and just one-shot that bouncer. So our final turn is a functional 2v3, just a Hornet and a Firefly. We have more than enough options to negate the threat to the grid they pose, and we can close out the mission successfully from there. But we have to kind of make up for our mistakes. Mistakes. Maybe let's call them stinanks. I could have had Bethany kill that Hornet and gotten some XP. Oh, but then the recoil would have killed Rosie. I see. Okay. That's 2 missions down. And honestly, as I alluded to before, there are still even more big galaxy brain puzzles to solve ahead of us. My next option is to kill 6 or fewer enemies and defend the Earth Mover, and that is just not good for the Hazardous Mechs. So then I'm looking at, don't kill 6 enemies, don't kill the Volatile Vec. The Hazardous Mechs have trouble not killing things, especially with my loadout. So against my own better judgment and against my will, I pick Hornet Holes. I'm not sure if I have showcased one of these types of missions in this series yet. Maybe I have? But if I have not, this is the type of mission where instead of Vec emerging from spawn points in the ground, instead their numbers are just being constantly replaced by Alpha Hornets coming out of those bottomless pits. This can be really bad. Not only because we can't block the spawns, but also because it's just Alpha Hornets are really annoying. They're fast, they have, a nasty 2-tile attack. I also really don't like the fact that my mission objective, the power generator, is so close to the enemy side of the board. And we get a time pod. It's going to be really claustrophobic. This is going to be a really dicey first round. And, ooh, God, look at this. So we have problems. The one consolation is the Hornet that emerges blocks the Firefly's attack. But unless we do something, the Tumblebug on B2 will destroy our mission objective, and the Digger will destroy the time pod, as well as, kill 2 more grid health for us. Both of these things are bad, and at first glance, I did not see anything I could do to stop that Tumblebug. So I play around a little bit with my positioning, desperately seeing what I can do to save the time pod, etc., etc. This took me a long time to see, and, say in the comments now if you can see a solution. because there is one, against all odds. The solution, of course, is Silica with his double action. So we can have Silica jump. This gets Silica into a better position, and he can still act. And what takes me a long time to realize is that I can have Silica jump to A2, and this will kick up the sand tile and cancel the Tumblebug's attack. In the meantime, I decide to just use self-destruct to destroy 3 enemies, which is a big deal. But this also means that the Firefly's attack must now be negated, and fortunately, I can do so with the nanomech. Also, knocking mites off the mechs usually is not that big a deal for the hazardous mechs. The elite mech and the unstable mech can self-damage and thus self-de-mite themselves. So this next turn is a little bit less harrowing than my first round, but the time pod is still at risk. And we have to be very, very ginger because, landing anywhere near it with the hydraulic legs will destroy it. Now, I could have used the Titanite blade here to kill that Tumblebug, kill the Scion, and then also knock the mites off the nanomech with bump damage. I don't do that, though. Instead, I elect to give Rosie some extra XP, I guess. And that just leaves the unstable mech to try and do population control on the hornets that are flooding in. So Silica's second action is kind of wasted. I just wind up using a heal. And that turn took me a long time, so there were multiple edits to save us some time. Here's another turn that took me a really long time to solve. We get this nasty little puzzle with a pair of hornets. The hornet on C5 must be dealt with. It will destroy our mission objective. The hornet on B4, I really lack the ability to do anything about. Most of my attacks will also push it, and pushing it into the grid is bad. Pushing it into the unstable boulder is even worse, because then that would wind up destroying my mission objective. So the best thing I can cook up is to kill the worst of the hornets, and then I have to give up 2 grid health, which, again, I don't like doing. That'll be 5 grid health lost on this island, which is pretty brutal. And then I also still need to heal Rosie, so I take the time to just do so and accomplish that mission objective. But we are sad to lose 2 more grid health. And then the final turn here is a minor mercy. There are no threats to the grid or mission objectives, so really all we have to do is move out of the way, and we could call it there. If possible, it would be nice to get Rosie some extra XP, but I'm not sure that was in the cards. So I just wind up killing hornets out of spite, which is a worthwhile cause. I hate hornets. I really do. So that was a real brain teaser, little brain puzzle. And even though I managed to accomplish all my mission objectives, I still could not save all of the grid health. So we are still down a net 1 from where we began the island. Interestingly, we get Adam with conservative. And Bethany gets her last promotion, which is +3 grid defense, so I promptly replace her with Adam. Because Adam also has conservative, we still have multiple uses of self-destruct. And Adam still has a skill that might be of more use to us if we can get him leveled up. So now I've got a bonus power core floating around, and I am inclined to invest it in the unstable mech, in the hopes of eventually fully upgrading it to do 4 damage and 2 self-damage. So in the meantime, I do a little bit of reshuffling. I believe I will put Yes, 3 cores into just the regular damage upgrade. And hopefully we'll be getting another time pod. Actually, I think we're guaranteed to get our next time pod on the next mission, as Adam was our first for the island. So my next choice is defend the Renfield bombs. And again, I really don't like any of the choices available to me here. But considering this map has a lot of water tiles, I figured I could risk it. So again, this is going to be a really nasty mission. The Renfield bombs are very vulnerable. They're difficult to defend, and I also lack non-damaging movement options. So my ability to defend the Renfield bombs is basically purely in the land of offense. They say the best defense is a good offense. We'll see if I can prove that saying true. And again, we've got just boulder trash producing enemies here. Another Tumblebug leader, an Alpha Tumblebug and an Alpha Digger. A Hornet to cause us that little extra bit of consternation, and a Bouncer. And as predicted, there's our second time pod. So this is a stacked mission. Functionally 4 mission objectives here. So on this first turn, we must do something about the Hornet, and we have to do something about the Tumblebug leader. And fortunately, we have a really nice something in the form of the Titanite blade. That will clear out a great deal of problems for us. And then we're also going to get some silica value. So that is an attack foiled, and silica still has a jump in them, which we can use to finish off the Tumblebug leader before it heals. This is why I like silica in the Leap Mech. Then it is a matter of finally just wiping out that Hornet. And that was a pretty clean first turn. But we are not out of the woods yet. With only 2 actions, the enemy just puts me in a nasty headlock here. So look at that. We've got, between 2 enemy actions, we have 3 of our mission objectives threatened. The exploding boulder will destroy the robotics lab and the Renfield bomb, and the Digger is threatening the Renfield bomb and the time pod. This took me a long time to figure out a solve that I was happy with. Which was silly, actually, because there was a solution in front of me the whole time that I just never saw. That solution was to move the Leap Mech to A3 and use the Titanite blade to just destroy the Digger. But on my first attempt here, I wind up pushing Adam so that he can kill the Digger. But then that leaves the Nanomech to deal with the Tumblebug, still at 1 HP, so I have to do a temporal reset. Because I was not satisfied with giving up 2 mission objectives. And when you use a temporal reset, Adam gets a shield and gets a speed boost, which is interesting. But even with that speed boost, I was still not sure that this was the optimal solution to the problems that faced me. So I wind up wasting a lot of time fiddling around with my positioning. And at first blush, it seems as if I'm almost repeating what I did before I used the temporal reset. It's very strange. But then what I wind up doing is, I have retrieved the time pod, so the Nanomech can push the Digger, and then I will simply destroy the Tumblebug with Adam. So a little bit of just an alternate order of operations here, but we are safe for the moment. I still think it would have been better to just destroy the Digger now and not have to worry about it anymore. Perhaps I was keen to try and save my last use of the Titanite blade, in case I really, really needed it. But I also have, self-destruct in my back pocket. So it is now our penultimate turn. The Digger continues to be a problem, but this is perhaps less quite, not quite as a nasty turn as the last one was. The Hornet and the Firefly on F5 are good targets for self-destruct, of which we still have 2 uses. It seems a good time to push the big red button. And it's some good XP for Adam. And then the Digger, is in a really bad spot, but can finally be finished off. And I did not need to use the Titanite Blade. So our final round will be a 3v3, and by this juncture, many, many minutes had passed by. I had really taken my time and very, very carefully considered all of my options. But I was frankly amazed that I had still not taken any grid damage and not lost any objectives. So I just had to figure out how to deal with these Fireflies and the Hornet. And I came up with this solution, which was to finally attack with the Titanite Blade on tile A3. And then this was a misplay. I should have pushed the Firefly with the Nanomech first, and then self-destruct could have taken out both of the Fireflies. Instead, I was a big old silly goose. But, it's fine. It's fine. It was a perfect mission, in fact. Against all odds. So we get a nice 2 reactor core payout. And we also get the Gemini missiles, which are a very powerful ranged class weapon. And unfortunately, we don't really have a good candidate to equip it. So I decide, I think, to just finish off the upgrades on the Unstable Mech. Oh, no, I see. Adam got a +2 HP upgrade, so I think I just upgrade. I maximize the damage on the Unstable Cannon, and then I finally invest some more cores into the Nanomech and give it a much-needed movement boost. So we're looking pretty strong here. We've got 2 4-damage weapons going into our final battle against the Scarab Leader. And this particular map seed I find to usually be pretty player-sided. The one downside is I have to kind of split my deployment attentions, as the enemy will be advancing on both sides of the board. My one little consolation is the Tumblebugs and the Digger are going to have to spend at least a round moving to get into a position where they can start really threatening the grid. And in the meantime, I hopefully will have the ability to wrangle all the other problems. So we just have 2 threats to deal with on our first turn. The Tumblebug and the Scarab Leader itself. And I believe there were multiple potential ways to solve this turn. I was definitely looking to put some big damage on the Scarab Leader as quickly as possible. And I think what I could have done was brought the Leap Mech down to B5, where the Unstable Mech began, and then used the Titanite Blade to kill the Tumblebug and push its boulder out of the way into the water. I think that maybe would have been a more elegant solve than the one I finally came up with, but it's still okay. Oh, I see. I did wind up doing what I had described, I just didn't do it quite as optimally as I could have, which would have been to also got rid of the unstable boulder. So, not quite the perfect play, but not worth, using a Templar reset for. And then I very wisely, I have the foresight to push that unstable boulder out of the way. So it is no longer threatening grid buildings. The nanomech is in position to get the Firefly leader safely pushed out of the way. And hopefully someone can finish off the Scarab leader for us. Meanwhile, the southwestern side of the board is just a nasty pile of rocks and giant, horrible space bugs. We can give Adam his first boss kill. And that just leaves Leap Mech to kind of do whatever it wants. There we go. A short little hop. So our next turn will be a relatively clear, functional 3v3. It's our penultimate turn. The Digger has placed itself in the worst possible condition, or position. And this is why it's wise to not just go willy-nilly with the Titanite Blade until you're absolutely sure you don't need it anymore. And I see there's a small opportunity for Rosie to get a little bit of XP at the expense of Adam's HP, but it's fine. So our final turn for the island will be 3v3, and the enemy is basically incapable of threatening the grid at this juncture. So it's GG for RST. And we will have our final score for the run, assuming we can finish off the volcanic island. And you love to see a final turn, which is just a total board wipe. Good job, Hazardous Mechs. Against all odds. For our Perfect Island reward, we get Prospero with Popular Hero, which is just an easy pick for the big reputation sale here at the end. And unfortunately, again, I think aside from Self-Destruct, we have bought nothing of note from the reputation store this run. Oh, no, I guess we bought the Titanite Blade. But that just means we're going to have a lot of spare power cores to throw around. And I'm pretty happy with my final pilot roster here. We've got Silica, Adam, and Rosie Rivets. We can sell the Gemini missiles, and then we can just dump the rest of it into power cores and a little bit of grid defense and grid health to top us off. So join us next time as we finish off the Hazardous Mechs and we prepare for fun stuff in the future. Share with your pals and enemies. Like and subscribe.